Yeah, so for the first couple of minutes here, I'm mainly just going to be analyzing your gameplay. I'll give you some informational things. So try to figure out like what are the more important things for us to work on, and then maybe in some of the future games that we get into, I might start to call some things out for you, remind you about certain things, and maybe
Okay,
like just shot call a little bit more, just to give reminders and kind of give you an idea of when you should be doing what.
sure. That was
Right.
terrible.
Yep. Try to make your goal here to just kind of get on their sidelines. You don't want to come from a frontal angle. Alright,
Oh.
so every single time that you're going in, you're very, very hard engaging, right? You go from
Mm,
0 to 100 very fast, and you kind of sit on the sidelines, and then you just go blink, 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 and then you go in, right? Instead,
yeah.
I'd like to see you sit there and poke at them from a little, kind of a medium-ish distance, and then when you
Okay.
hard engage is when you see somebody who's low, who's out of position, when you see an opportunity to engage. Tracer is very much an opportunist. She goes in,
Okay.
you want to be there and poke and be a distraction, and sometimes you can make your own opportunities, but you don't want to just get in and hard engage. You want to look for to kind of exist on the sideline a little bit longer.
Okay.
So rather than just triple linking in and hard engaging, look for an opportunity to engage and then going off of that.
Oh no. Yeah, my blink management is definitely terrible.
Yep. Make sure that you're not staying in there for too long, right? We look at where the rest of our team's at. We ended up overextending really, really far, and then that meant that it was kind of like a 1v4.
Mm,
And then always keep in mind you're always looking for an exit strategy, right? You don't want to keep going in, keep going in, keep going in. You always have to have some abilities to get out so that you can just
right.
recharge them up so that you're not dying, right?
Okay.
So once recall's up, then you just stay out of the fight until you get the abilities back, or just save some blinks too.
Oh no. Oh my god.
Alrighty. What you want to do is try to sync up with your team. A lot of
Okay.
the times here, we're not paying attention to what our team's doing, and then we're hard engaging when our team's not really in any position to engage. And then what that means is that
Okay.
they can all turn and look at us, right? But
Okay.
if we're going in when our team's engaging on them as well, then that means that they have to split their attention on us, which means that we get more value and our team gets more value,
Okay.
rather than having all of them turn on us at once. Alrighty, just make sure you're not, walking straight towards them. It's just try to stay as
Yeah.
far away from them as possible.
Yeah, I was thinking go into the immortality field, but I suppose he killed it at the same time that he killed me. Or maybe I ran out just a little bit too early.
Make sure you're not pushing too far up when we still have people on point, right?
Okay.
Alrighty, so we're waiting a little too long to look for a pulse. like kind of at the very beginning of that fight, the fight wasn't really starting, and we had pulse, yet we're just kind of spamming at them, which means that we're giving away our position, right? A better play
Hmm.
would maybe be to kind of wait until the team engages and then go in with our pulse, right? Rather than giving away our position by spamming.
Right. Okay. Guess I didn't really need to recall for that either. Oh my god.
Oh. Yeah, the big thing is that we want to make sure that we're kind of approaching from as much of a side angle as we can get. The front, whenever we're on the frontal angle, that means that we're taking a ton of unnecessary spam, which Tracer doesn't really have much health, right? So
Mhm.
we want to get on that sideline, and Tracer really thrives when we're on the side or in their back line rather than when we're just kind of sitting with our team. So yeah, this angle is really good.
Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm getting
Yep.
carried.
So look to when you see that, like, for example, your Reapers going in. Like, the big thing is you want to pay attention to what your team, right? If you see
Mhm.
Reapers going in, balls going in, we want to go in with them at the same time so that we can follow up with their damage and that we can be a distraction on top of them, and then both us and Reaper get more value than if Reaper, they can all look at Reaper and then Reaper dies instantly, right?
Right. That was reaction.
Oh, Rhineland Shatter.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, I'd like to see us try to put ourselves, rather than blinking straight in, maybe blink
Mhm.
to the left side of the map, and we want to put ourselves in better positions to where we can survive and shoot at them than just
Okay.
coming in from the front line. So maybe like double blink from the right side to the left side, and we want to take a different angle. We always want to be kind of on the side. We don't want to come to that front angle, and again, try to stay outside of McCree's flashbang radius, right? Because
Mhm.
you have a little bit of range on you. You don't have to be right next to him.
Yeah.
When you're going for that play, try to just use all your blinks to get through, so you don't have time when you're out in the open, right? You just
Okay.
kind of triple blink in
Okay.
to the doorway.
10 seconds remaining.
I could use some healing.
All right. Just gotta pay attention to the time bank there.
Yeah.
So far, haven't landed any ultimates, I believe. Blink
Yep.
management needs a ton of work. Mechanics are fine, right? That's kind of that transfers over all right from playing McCree. So I don't think we have
Mhm.
too much of an issue with shooting at stuff. The issue is that we don't ever have space or time to shoot at stuff. Very
Mhm.
rarely can we sit there and just shoot at stuff because we're not putting ourselves in positions to where we can do that. So you really
Right.
want to make sure that you're trying to put yourselves on the side or behind them, because a lot of the times, like, we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, where we just kind of
Mhm.
um, sit in the front of them, and then we
Yeah.
use a bunch of abilities, go in hard, then end up getting flashbanged or melted, and then we're forced to
Mhm.
back up.
Okay.
Don't get cold feet now.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm kind of falling into the same trap as like when I play Torb and then I go to play McCree and
Mm.
and then like I end up just like spamming shots down main
Yeah.
as McCree, where like that's not the play style I should be going for.
Yep.
Now like I'm kind of like not like front lining as Tracer, but more or less like
Mm.
front lining as Tracer.
The positioning is the same as if you were playing McCree.
Attackers
Yeah,
incoming.
yeah, exactly.
Defend objective A.
make sure that we're trying to do our best to scout what comp they're on before we're being too aggressive with our
Oh, right.
positioning,
Okay.
right? So that we don't end up getting surprised by the Widowmaker.
Mhm.
Try not to re-peek angles when we're going up with Widowmaker, right? We have to try to be unpredictable. So if we, the big
Oh,
thing I would
okay.
do there is rather than just soft peeking the corner, is
Mhm.
use your grapple to grapple up in the air, to grapple like just to the
Oh,
side to
right,
kind of
right.
launch yourself, and that way you're not doing something predictable. Whereas if you just soft peeking the corner, then that's really easy for the Widowmaker to know where you're at, right? Number one thing
Right.
we're doing right now is we're looking for Widowmaker, right?
Yeah.
When we're checking those corners from and whatnot, remember we're aiming at head level, right? Keep your crosshair
Mhm.
at head level. Make sure we're keeping crosshair placement correctly. Keep in mind that when she uses that ult, it is kind of a directional hearing, right? So we can
Mhm.
hear she is
Yeah.
coming from the spawn area, so checking top left isn't really necessary. As long as we're keeping our ears open and we're watching for it. Probably you can peek your supports to get healed, right?
Thank you.
Make sure you're requesting healing, that way it gets fast. Oh, you do it, but
I
it was
did, yeah.
Yep, didn't hear that.
No one can hide from my sight.
Yep, when you're sighting like that, use that opportunity to find Widowmaker, right? So you can try to take her out.
They switched from
Yeah, to
Widow to
Reaper.
McCree.
Yep. Or they swapped to Widow to Reaper there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, my aim. I can really tell that I haven't like played anything today.
Yeah. Make sure you're not trying to go for 10% shots. 10% shots don't really do any damage. It's not going to get any kills unless you know that they're 1 HP. But most of the time, if they're 1 HP, we can just SMG anyways, right?
Oh,
So really, there's never going to be a real use for a 10% shot unless they're like super, 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 super far away from you and you're trying to finish off a 1 HP target. All right.
kind of want to go on a flank on the left here. Would that be a bad idea?
Um,
Kind of feel like it might be.
it might. Yeah, it's a little too long of a flank. I'd probably just stick with your team.
Okay.
After the fight's done, we can maybe take a high ground angle, but. Alright, keep in mind that when we're looking for stuff like that, we don't necessarily have to go on full on flanks. We can take off angles. So off angles being, different angles that we can take that are shorter and safer. So we can look to get around shields. That way we can, for example, the bookstore there on your right side can act as an off angle if we want to go
Oh, okay.
through there and kind of peek them from the side. We can get a flashbang off, right click, or just shoot them if we need to. Right, and then that's a way that we can do a short, tiny little flank that gets us around shields, but doesn't take a super long time. No, you can probably look to It's too late now, but when the wave freezes
yeah.
like that, we can look to combo that with a high noon, right? If they're all frozen, they're not really gonna have many people to shoot at you.
Mhm. There's no getting away from me.
Yep. Good decision not to stagger yourself there. When looking for high noon, the big thing I was just looked for is to make sure behind your Ryan shield, right? You can,
Okay.
if you're communicating, you can ask him to shield for you. Or we can also look to use it behind this too.
Oh, my aim.
Make sure you're focusing the immortality first there.
Okay.
And then we're all also kind of out of position on the right side, right? Probably want to be a little bit more on the left, or being on that high ground is going to be better too.
Okay.
Yeah, the big thing there was make sure you're focusing immortality when immortality's up, or else like you can't just assume that somebody else is going to, right?
Missed my headshot.
Very nice, Heinen. Good job, good distance that you're using that on, as well as making sure you're comboing with Mei ult.
I listen sometimes.
Mhm. And we can probably look to play around this left room as kind of an off angle, right? This gives us angles to kind of sneak in and get a flashbang off from.
Uh.
Alrighty. So we're gonna go over a bunch of different things, and we'll do a quick kind of review of what the main things you're struggling with on these characters. I'm streaming if you want to go take a look.
Sure.
Alrighty. So, Tracer, we'll just go in order. We went over 3 different characters there. Tracer, you struggle, probably say out of the 3 was your worst performance, or like the character that needs the most work on. So there's a lot of different categories. I'd probably say aim is one of the better areas that you're good on with her. You have fine reloading habits. I think that we need to really work on our pulse bomb usage, ability usage, and our positioning mainly. So keep in mind with our positioning, we want to make sure that we're playing kind of at a closer range. So on Tracer, the further away we get, the less damage we're going to be doing based off of 2 different factors, your fall off and your spread. So right around 13 meters is where the fall off will start, or after 13 meters. So from here, we're doing max damage, and we can one-tap people. This is around the blink range, right? So from here, actually, that's outside of the blink range. So probably you want to be playing around this 10-meter range, because this is where we can do blink melees. This is where we can do blink pulse bombs, which is when you blink in and pulse bomb. And this is going to make it super, super easy for you to land pulses if we do that, right? Because that gets us right up next to them. So when we're looking for pulse bombs, that's how we're going to be able to hit them much easier. If we're trying to lob it in there or chuck it, it's gonna be very difficult to do that. So we want to stick within this 10-meter range, and 13 meters max here. But the further and further back we go, the less and less damage we do. Like, so if we're doing it from here, right? But let's compare, I guess, like body shots. We can do a body shot kill from there, back here. Okay, now with spread and now we can't do a body shot kill, right? And the further back we go, that's gonna be worse and worse and worse. So we want to make sure that we're playing within this closer range, which means that we want to put ourselves in that closer range. And we can't do that if we're just sitting back main and spamming down, right? So what we want to do is if our team's, playing here, we can take this right side angle and come on their sidelines, right? The big thing on characters when we're taking duels and whatnot, we don't want to come at them from the front, because if we're coming at them from here, they're all looking at us. We get to take a ton of spam damage. They see us coming, so it becomes very easy for them to shoot at us. So when we're dueling somebody, let's say for example McCree, what we do is we go to the sides of him or blink behind him, and then that throws them off. So for example here, McCree coming at us, we blink behind him. As soon as he turns around, we can blink to the other side of him, right? We can do that side to side, right? Blink, side, other side, right? And that's how we throw people off. If we're just kind of dueling them and we're just blinking straight into them, so we're just doing this, or we're just blinking backwards, or blinking like just a little bit to the side, then that's not going to be as good as making him do a full 360, because whenever you blink and out of his line of sight, that means that he has to reacquire you, right? He has to go like, wait, where the heck did they go? So we want to make sure that we're positioning on those angles, because we get more value. We can get on Tracer. We can very easily get around shields, tanks. We can get to the back line kind of straight off, which gets us a lot of value. So we want to make sure that we're playing at this angle, so that we can get that value. So we already went over pulse bombs, kind of making sure you're on the side angle, right, rather than the frontal angle. I think we might have talked. Did we talk about the difference between a flank and an off angle before on McCree? Yeah, so just make sure you're applying kind of that same thought process. On Tracer, we can go a little bit more flanky, because Tracer has a ton of mobility. On McCree, you're a very slow character, right? So the difference there is that Tracer, because she's fast and she has a ton of survivability, a flank is less dangerous for her and a flank is faster for her, which doesn't even make it a flank anymore, really, but it'd be a flank for McCree, right? So flank Tracer is a much more flanky character than McCree is, and we can be looking for those flanks.
Okay.
Right. So ability, make sure with your ability usage that you're not blowing all of your abilities at once. So something like this, like where we're triple blinking in, isn't going to be something we want to do often. We can maybe do that if we're looking to land a pulse bomb. But more than often, rather than just blinking in from the front line, recalling out and then waiting, I'd prefer to see us kind of poking in and out on the side angle here, kind of poke, right? Wait until something's low, and then we can go in hard, and then we can recall, right? And we have a bunch of survivability over here. And then when we're low on abilities, I want to see us try to back up, recharge those abilities before we're going back in. When we're out of those abilities, we can come back to the front line, poke for a little bit, and then now we have abilities back, we're going back in, right? I just don't want to see us continuously use all of our abilities, and then now we're out of abilities and trying to run away, and then we're dead.
Seconds or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, base, go ahead.
So, should I be, I mean, I should always be looking to, like, secure kills and stuff like that, but, like, I shouldn't always be focused on, like, one clipping things, or?
Yes. Most of the time that's an unrealistic expectation. Now, it's going to happen sometimes, right? Especially if, for example, somebody scoped in. So, Widowmaker scoped in, Ashe scoped in, Ana scoped in. Those are going to be the easiest one clips, as you going in on that means that they have very slow mobility. They're basically standing still for you. It's going to be very easy to land those one clips. So other examples are going to be when someone's sleeping, when Mercy's rezzing, when somebody's grabbed, when somebody is shattered, right? When all these crowd control things are on top of them, then we can look for the one clips. But other than that, that shouldn't be our expectation. Instead, what we do is we poke from a medium distance, right? We're by doing this, we're being a distraction. So our front line's over there. They have to take half their attention off of the front line, which helps our team. And if we're engaging when our team's all the way over there, and now
Mm.
they can just turn all 6 people and look at us, and then now
Right,
that's no
right.
good, right? So we want to
Okay.
make it so that they're split. We're splitting their attention between us and our team, and then
Okay.
as soon as we see something that's low, and we can sometimes we can make them low, right? We can poke until they're low, and then we can hard engage, right?
Oh,
Or somebody on our team can make them low, but we're being essentially we're a nuisance until we see an opportunity, and then that's where we are engaged,
okay.
right? And
Okay, I
then
think that's where a lot of my misunderstanding of the character comes from, because
yep,
you watch like the top players and stuff like that, and they're just like
yeah,
constantly just like one clipping everything that they look at,
yeah. Which
and
a lot of the time that's just because when you see those top players, most of the time you're watching like clips of them and you're watching their best
mhm.
plays. You're
Yeah.
not often are you gonna watch a full VOD of a tracer player and every
Mhm.
single kill that they get is a one clip. Um,
Right, right.
it just doesn't happen. So that's an unrealistic expectation that's gonna happen. Like I probably
Okay.
say at most for a pro like maybe at most like 3 times a game, right? It's not gonna be
Okay.
something that happens all the time. It's
Yeah.
that's like where you get like the freshness clip. That's where it gets into a montage
Yeah.
when you do land the one clip.
Mhm.
That's not the same thing as like kind of your play style of how you should be consistently playing.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so now we've gone over that. Those are the things we want to be working on Tracer. Widowmaker, I'd probably say the main thing. There are some game sensey things and decision making things that we could have worked on, but the main thing's just gonna be our aim. I think that we aren't maybe comfortable with our aim yet on Widowmaker, and I really
Mhm.
encourage us to like work on that as the main thing we're struggling with because we didn't really hit any shots and we charged our ult very
Mhm.
slowly. We didn't get many picks. So mechanics, I'd probably say, are the number one thing to work on Widowmaker. Make sure we're
Okay.
keeping our crosshair placement things. We definitely talked about this before, right? Make sure that when we're peaking angles, that we're peaking head level, so that I'm peaking this and my crosshair's already on their head, right? So
Right.
rather than me like checking an angle and I'm like looking down here and then hitting that body shot, I want to be looking to where I'm hitting those headshots.
Okay.
A lot of time also with your shots, it looks like we do very very flicky shots with our
Adieu.
crosshair, and keep in mind
Mhm.
that while that it does have its uses, flicking is not going to be how we're hitting every single shot, and a lot of the times that's going to be a lot more inaccurate than if
Okay.
we're doing this slow methodical lining up of shots with our crosshair placement.
Okay.
So times the flicking isn't necessary is going to be when fast character tracer, when somebody just appears on our screen. So let's say like we're dueling, and then all of a sudden we see like Widowmaker pop up there, right? We're shooting,
Okay.
and then all of a sudden Widow, and then we just go like that, right? And we flick over to Widow.
Mhm.
When we're up against a fast character, when somebody's right on top of us, because when we're scoped in, somebody's right here, we have to go up so that we can hit them. We can't really, place our crosshair on this because they're dancing on our head.
Mhm.
Um, so there's gonna be there's definitely times where you do flick, but that's not gonna be how you always want to conduct your aim. Um,
Yeah.
so we just want to make sure that we're really, really keeping in mind crosshair placement because that's going to help us hit a lot more shots.
Okay.
Now, moving on to McCree. McCree, our aim's good. I think you're much, much more well-rounded on McCree. You can tell that just because you've played him more often.
Mhm.
I think big things on him. I didn't. I mean, I don't think we saw as much gameplay of him as the other characters, but mechanics are definitely solid. I think I'd like to see when I watch you again. I'm gonna look at your ability usage a little bit more because I don't know how often we are using them and how often we value out a flashbang. But High Noon, you definitely did much better on the second one than the first one that you used.
Mhm.
Keep in mind when you're high nooning through a BAP field that it's not BAP field's not gonna make your high noon acquire targets faster. Um,
Right.
it's only gonna up the damage output. So basically, what that means is we can just shoot it when it's half charged, right? When it's
Right.
we shoot it before they're fully acquired. Yeah, but besides that, probably say McCree. One of the biggest things right now is just gonna be our positioning and make sure we're doing the right thing at the right time. So kind of our decision
Mhm.
making and awareness. But our mechanics and our reload abilities, our high noon usage is pretty good there. So McCree, I like to just see more gameplay before
Okay.
I maybe give a full like homework of what to work on yet.
Okay.
Alrighty, so we probably go ahead and get into a queue.
Okay.
Or actually, yeah. What do we have? We have like 15 minutes left.
Um, I don't know what time it
Yeah.
is.
So
Something
it's
like that.
4:55 EST. I don't know what time zone you were at.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have 15 more minutes. We might not be able to finish a full game, but we should. You should be fine to just do a comp because what I'll end up doing is I'll just do some of the order stuff while I'm waiting for you to finish the game.
Okay. I can do a quick play. The time might be a little bit shorter.
All right. I mean, it's up to you. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Probably
quick play doesn't necessarily have the most competitive of gameplay.
Right. I can do a comp then. Why not?
Yeah, like what end up happening is like after. Oh wait, actually I forgot the queue for comp is so long. Snap.
Yeah.
I guess. I'm trying to think. I mean honestly, because if we're doing comp, we might actually not get anything like into a game. So why don't I guess queue up for quick play? That should be fine.
I'll also kind of show you like my
Mm.
warm up routine that I usually do for like I don't know maybe 20-30 minutes before I start playing comp. I like this workshop a lot.
Mm.
PMA jellies one. So usually I start off here at and then I'll just like stay at 1 meter and then like usually if I get like 65 plus in the 30 seconds or so that it gives me,
Uh huh.
then I'll like decrease it by like a meter radius or whatever.
All right.
And then as things get smaller, I'll
Yeah, let me. So I already linked to one video on Shore for talking about aim, but I have another video where IDDQD goes over how he practices his mechanics, and he also has a custom game that I personally have been using a little bit lately. When
the
I don't play
Lijiang one.
much, but yeah, the Lijiang one.
Yeah. So I'll do this sphere thing like all the way down to like
Mm.
0.25 and like yeah. So I'll do that one. And then when I get there, there's like the flick practice. Usually I go with like the widow here or whatever. Then I'll just practice this, and then
Uh huh.
I'll usually do that until like I'll reduce the time until like
hmm
0.35 or something.
How? So you say you do this for like 30 minutes to warm up?
Yeah, just about.
How
Yeah.
much like do you play after that 30 minutes?
Probably like a couple hours.
All right. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that sounds fine with me. Honestly, like this all seems like a very healthy warm up. Whenever people ask me about like this like aim trainers and whatnot, my answer is usually just as long as it's not overtaking the amount of time that you're spending playing
Mhm.
competitive. Because comp is just gonna be the best way to learn how to play the game. It does like I honestly didn't do like many aim trainers at all, and I still got pretty high up there. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so aim changers aren't necessary, but I think they're very useful, especially if we're um, using them, to warm up. Not all the time. I think 30 minutes is a very healthy time, especially if you do play multiple hours. If somebody played 30 minutes to warm up and then only played an hour of comp, then I'd say maybe okay, well maybe put a
Yeah,
little more time into comp and don't worry too much about the aim trainers.
yeah. This mode right here is really helpful too.
hmm
I like it a lot. And then it also has the like flying hero one, like the one on Lijiang.
Yeah.
My only issue with this is like this isn't really like a realistic like doing that is great for tracking and stuff like that, but it's not like a realistic movement that you're gonna see
Uh
Prepare
huh.
for defensive.
in a game, you know?
Select your hero.
Which is true, but at the same time that you could also say that a lot of the time for other movements in like so for example, your targets that you're flicking to on um in the aim trainer before, right? Like it's not
Mhm.
like aim trainers aren't going to be realistic to actual gameplay movement um
Right.
most of the time. So it's no more realistic than any of the other modes that you were showing me.
Right. Yeah.
And then at the same time there are going to be moments in the game where there are people moving that fast, and then it gives you, because people are moving from side to side, up and down, it gives you a sense for when people are jumping, when people are getting, using movement abilities, when they're getting booped around. So it can get you really used to the mobility in the game and learning to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also things like jump pads. So yes, it's not going to be as kind of slow paced as the movement in Overwatch. But I do find it helpful for myself. Plus, I mean that's
Yeah.
what
No, I
you
definitely
know.
find it helpful.
Yeah, and then that's also what an Overwatch League player uses and recommends. So
Mhm.
I get the idea.
Cool.
I owe you one. Somebody get me some healing. Thank you.
alrighty. Try not to again take the exact same angle because that makes it predictable. So if you're forced off the high ground, you can try taking like the bottom right.
Clean up
Um,
this mess.
so the big thing is just whenever you're playing sniper characters is whenever you have people who have a kind of a lock on your location, you don't want to make it easier for them by going back to the exact same location and staying on that angle. Other thing is, keep in mind, on Ashe, you do have fall off, right? You're not a Widowmaker. You have to play more of a distance like McCree than a distance like Widowmaker. So our positioning, that, like for example, there you were just damage boosted and couldn't get that one tap because of how far away you were. Even though she's a 175 HP character, you were
Yeah.
too far. So keep in mind, you want to stay more within that McCree distance of people than within a Widowmaker distance, right? Because you do have a ton of fall off. You gotta pay attention. Like Widowmaker and essentially, we should pretty much be doing nothing but trying to focus down Widowmaker and Pharah.
Okay.
Those are our kind of two #1 objectives right now, and then we can also do spam dynamites on tanks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do tend to kind of forget about my dynamite sometimes.
Yep, dynamite should be coming out off a cooldown, so pretty much every time we get it. Well, if you see that you're like 95 to Bob, right? You have a
Yeah,
dynamite
I
on
should've
people. Just let it.
waited.
Just wait until you get to Bob. That way you get it out. Just always remember, whenever we're like 80, 90 to our ultimates, we're always thinking about how we're using it ahead of time.
Bob, do something. Smoke 'em out of there.
Alright, I'll make the decision to swap Tracer there.
Yeah.
If you see we have a bunch of teammates on point, yeah, we can look to try to get their back line. Oh, just make sure that if you don't need to, don't blink straight on the point where you're going to take all the damage, right? Just you have to pay very close attention to how many people we have alive, how many people are on point, right? If we have 2 tanks on point, we don't need to go putting ourselves in line of fire of all that damage.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so on Ashe, I didn't see too much of gameplay, but dynamites, make sure those are coming coming out off of cooldown. So every time you get it, because it is a very spammy ability, it's going to be your best team group damage as well as your best Bob charge. So just make sure you're looking to use it super often. And then in that situation, whenever you're on characters, we always want to be changing up our playstyle based off of our team comp and the enemy team comp, right? Team comp dictates playstyle. So when we're up against that comp, we need to identify that if Farah and we're kind of the one who has to deal with Farah, right? Because we're on Ashe, we're
Mhm.
the hit scan, and then also Widowmaker can keep us at bay very, very easily. So those two are like right off the bat our number one responsibilities, but also threats, right? We're going to
Mhm.
be killed the easiest if we're oh, I forgot I was still streaming. We're going to get killed the easiest by Widowmaker, so we have to be very careful of her line of sight. So we can also very easily kill Widowmaker because now we
Mhm.
can get over that damage threshold and one tap her even without a mercy, since
Right.
she has less health now. So, but like us and Widowmaker are each other's biggest threats, right? It's the same thing as if you're on a Widowmaker, right? Since Widow has when you're scoping in, you have such a slow kind of movement speed, and they have humongous head hitboxes. It's going to be super easy to kill an enemy Widowmaker, and it's going to be super easy to kill an Ashe's Widowmaker and Widowmaker as Ashe. So we really need to prioritize killing that enemy sniper, but then also
Mhm.
paying attention to the Pharah too. So kind of
Right.
our play style there should be dynamite tanks every time we get it, or dynamite somebody, like whoever we see, and then really, really looking for the Widowmaker and the Pharah and looking to kill those two specifically. Alrighty, so
Okay.
we do have 4 minutes left here, so I guess just a quick little recap, and then we can kind of get into the kind of end game stuff here.
Sure.
So Tracer, work on the ability usage, make sure we're not using all of them at once. Positioning,
Mhm.
make sure we're within that 13 meters, but preferably at 10 meters, and we're kind of playing at a at that mid to close range on their sidelines. Try to sync yourself up so that you're going in with your team, not the different time than your team. Um, and then with your pulse bombs, look to blink pulse in so you can land those a little bit easier. You're trying to get blink right up into their bodies, so it's very hard to miss it. You don't want to try to throw it from a mile away. Um,
Okay.
Now with your what were the other ones we went over? Widowmaker. Really big thing is just focus on your aim, as we're just missing a ton of shots. Focusing on your crosshair
Mhm.
placement. McCree. Just McCree. I probably wouldn't say there's anything specific to the character McCree that we need to work on, but
Mhm.
it just more comes down to um, your own game sense and awareness and decision making of make sure you're paying attention to where you're standing, make sure you're paying
Mhm.
attention to when we're making what decision and how, and then what, like, kind of paying attention to our surroundings and being aware of what's happening. With
Right.
our high noon usage, we adapted very fast, and first time around we missed the opportunity to combo with the Mayfreeze, but then time around
Mhm.
we did good on that. Um, and then Ashe there, make sure you're diamondating off of cooldown. Make sure that you're trying to survive if you're close to a Bob.
Mhm.
Um, think about who your correct focus targets are, who you should be looking to focus. Then yeah, that is pretty much it. Do you have any questions about anything that we've gone over this session, past sessions, or any just questions about Overwatch in general?
Um, Not really, man. I mean, all of this has been really super helpful, and I've always asked her any questions whenever they pop up, but I
All
can't
right,
really think of anything right now. Yeah.
alrighty. So I'm gonna stop the recording.